This is Kate Swoboda, creator of YourCourageousLife.com, director of the Courageous Living Coach certification at TeamCLCC.com, and author of the book, The Courage Habit, which is available at booksellers and at Amazon. The Your Courageous Life podcast is all about going after what you want and creating and living a more courageous, emotionally resilient life. Might drop a couple of F-bombs, so maybe don't listen with your kids in the backseat of the car. And here we go with today's episode. Here we are. A new episode, a new week. And this week I'm talking with all of you about getting things done. Important topic, right? One that we often have a really conflicted orientation around, because on the one hand, we want to get all the things done, because when we do get all the things done, we're proud of ourselves. We feel like our life moves a little more smoothly. We're, able to tick that off the list, move to something else. And the conflict arises in that it can often feel like a chore, a burden, an obligation, kind of a downer, not as much fun, and very overwhelming. So we spend a lot of our lives, I think, trying to get things done, not being able to get things done, wondering why we can't get things done, trying new programs and approaches to get things done. And I'm going to weigh in on my take on getting things done. And here's hoping that some of what I share today is going to be helpful for you around getting things done. So I'll start off by telling you about a rather important decision around getting things done that I made a couple of months ago. I would accept that in a world of not enough time and too much to do, it was time for me to just stop complaining about being so busy. So literally, it was just a decision that I made a couple months ago where I just went, I'm just going to stop mentioning it. I'm going to stop going into detail about it. Now, habits are habits, and believe you me, I have honed the habit of being able to catch up with people and tell them all the different things that I'm doing that I'm very, very busy with. And particularly with my husband, that had gotten to become the habit. It was like, pick up kiddo from school. We're both getting home. Hi, hun. How are you? How was your day? Sitting around the table. And what we would talk about were all the things we needed to get done. And often I would go into, I'm feeling kind of stressed. I got to get this, and this done. I know it'll be fine, but first I got to do this. Then I got to do this. This thing didn't work. I had a tech issue with this. And I just decided a couple months ago, stop talking about it. Stop going into detail about it. So part of getting things done, I decided, would be just getting them done without having to talk about getting them done. And I got to tell you, it was very helpful. It has been very helpful so far. I immediately feel a lot less overwhelmed about the things that I need to get done. And I notice that I'm better able to compartmentalize. I'm better able to go, okay, right now I'm sitting down at my desk. I'm recording a podcast episode. This is what I need to get done. And when I hit go on this episode and I'm done looking at it or tweaking it or messing with the sound or creating an image or whatever the things are that I do for podcast episodes, I'm done with those things. And it's not going to be the discussion tonight over dinner with my husband. And there's the boundary, I guess you could say, that gets put around dinner tonight will not have a discussion of all the things I was busy doing, means I feel less overwhelmed about the things that I need to do. Now, I don't think that this is a coincidence. This coincides with a couple of other time management and getting things done kinds of things that I've changed up. Anybody who's listened to any podcast interview that I've given, you can just Google my name in iTunes and you're going to come up with all the podcasts where I've ever been a guest and ever been interviewed. And I talk in a lot of them about meditation. So I don't think it's a surprise that the same year that I was like, this is it. Meditation is part of how I do life. And that's just how it is. It's not a task. It is part of how I do life. It is so important that it's got to be a priority. I don't think it's a coincidence that the same year that I declared that priority would become the year that I would get more intentional about my time. So I'll share a little bit about how I had been doing things and where I was getting tripped up and how I'm doing things now that have me feeling more productive. And that's going to be the basis for sharing all about getting things done on today's episode. And I sincerely hope that you will take my framework, I guess you could say, and then adapt it for your own purposes. I feel almost like if we were all in a room together in a circle, I would say to everyone, raise your hand if you've quietly stalked what other people do for time management and hoped that maybe like they would have the answer and you could apply their system and then you'd be good. And, flurry of hands would go up around the room. So I'm giving you a little behind the scenes of how all this works. So in years past, here's what I had been doing that was not working as well. I had been accustomed to deciding for myself what my year-long goals were. I would sit down at the beginning of each year. My husband and I actually have this really cute little date night that we do every December where we sit down and we have a whole process for how we assess what it is that each of us want for ourselves in the year to come. I've never been a 3, 5, 10-year goal-setting kind of person. As soon as I try to set like a 3-year plan, a 5-year plan, a 10-year plan, it just feels like, like all the life just got sucked out of the room. Where's the room for mystery, And I've heard a lot of top performers and, people who do things that look really amazing on paper say, I set a 10-year goal. I was really committed to that goal. That's how I have this uber successful life. And I've just decided that doesn't work for me. 3, 5, and 10-year goals don't work for me. And maybe I'll never be as successful on paper as those guys. And that's okay. So I'd set this 1-year goal. I'd say these are like the top 3 to 5 things I want to accomplish this year. And usually I'd find myself buoyed up by my plans in January. And then as a series of gray, wintry days chipped away. This feeling, right? I mean, I'm in California and even I am sitting here going, man, January can be kind of rough. By March, it would feel a little bit like, okay, so where was I even at with all of those big plans that I made in January? So here's the shift that I've made that's really pivotal. Because if you know that feeling of starting off a new year and you're like all gung-ho, you're like, hey, we're going to do it. It's going to be so great. And then a couple months in, you're like, where did it all go? I don't even know. Then I want to give you some insight into how to shift that pattern. So what I started to do was at first I kept the annual goal setting tradition, but then I also began breaking down goals by quarter and setting a weekly intention for my top 3 priorities. And I would look at my schedule each week, break down the small, tiny steps that need to be completed in order to hit those top 3 priorities. So it's almost like a trickle down, like the bigger 3 to 5 goals for the year. If I'm going to accomplish those, what would I need to focus my time on each quarter? And then if I'm going to focus my time on certain things each quarter in order to accomplish those quarterly goals, what do I need to do? And someone could, I suppose, break it then down by month. And I kind of do that in the sense that each quarter I kind of know which one I'm going to prioritize first of the 3 quarterly goals that I'll set. But I found that doing it by week was just more helpful for me. So that's the way I did it. So 3 to 5 big things you want to accomplish in 12 months. And then quarterly, what are the things you need to do that are going to support those 3 to 5 annual goals? And then each week, looking at my quarterly goals and going, okay, what am I going to do this week that's going to put me a little bit closer to the quarterly goals? And this is sort of similar to, not sort of actually, it's very similar to how I would approach training for triathlon. I used to do triathlon. I did a couple of half Ironman triathlons, which are very long triathlons. It's a 1.2 mile swim, 56-mile bike ride, topped off with a half marathon, which is running 13.1 miles. And as you can imagine, you can't go out for a half marathon and just be like, oh, here we go. You've got to train for it. So what you have to do is you have to go, okay, if on race day, I need to be able to do 1.2, 56, and 13.1, then I need to work backwards. I need to, about a month before the race, be able to run 10 miles. And 2 months before the race, I should definitely be able to run, 8 miles. And 3 months before the race, I should definitely be able to run 6 miles. So you start working backwards like that, and then you can see where it is you want to be. These days, I don't do triathlon anymore, but I'm crazy about CrossFit from one extreme sport to another, I guess. And I think of CrossFit in a similar kind of way. There's a workout coming up. I'm recording this before Memorial Day weekend, and this episode will go out after Memorial Day weekend, but every Memorial Day weekend at CrossFits around the country, there's this one workout that is done in honor of servicemen, and it's called the Murph. And it's like a 1 mile run, and then, I don't know, like 100 pull-ups and 200 push-ups or, something like that, followed by another 100-mile run. I got to look at it again. But basically, there's been this whole process or mentality that I've been in of going, okay, if I need to hit these numbers on this specific day, then working backwards, what are the things I need to be doing in order to make sure that I'm training in the direction of hitting those numbers on this specific day? It's the same thing with getting things done. You have 3 to 5 big accomplishments that you want to have by the end of the year, and you start working backwards and going, well, where do I need to go? What progression do I need to make if I'm going to hit this big accomplishment by the end of the year? I want to give you an example of how this might get broken down. I'm a big examples person. Love them, love them, love them. Sometimes I feel like when someone's explaining something, especially something I've tried to do in my own life, but I'm not quite getting, as soon as they go, I'll give an example, my brain lights up and goes, oh, thank God. Okay, let's get pragmatic. Let's make this applicable. So here we go. Big picture. Like, let's say that you want to see I talk to new coaches all the time because I'm director of Courageous Living Coach Certification. So I'm talking to new coaches all the time who are building their businesses while they're working a salaried job. So that means part-time coaching. They're not, ditching the job yet. They're building their clientele. And so what they might do is they might go, okay, my big picture goal for the year would be to work with 20 clients over the course of 1 year. Big picture, 20 clients. And then you would take that goal and you'd put it into quarters. So what are the moves you'll need to make on a quarterly basis to move you towards that outcome? If you want to work with 20 clients over the course of a year, then let's say 5 per quarter. So you want to work with 5 clients during the months of January, February, March. You want to work with 5 more April, May, June. You want to work with 5 more July, August, September. And you want to work with 5 more October, November, December. That's the goal. So that's the quarterly goal. Weekly, if I had that goal, I'd be sitting down with my schedule for the week, and I'd be blocking off available time to work on the quarterly goals. This can be a place where things get a little bit tricky, right? Because these are the moments when you're looking at your weekly calendar that can be a little make or break for the quarterly or the annual. Because if on your weekly calendar, you have a goal of working with 5 clients, but you're not blocking off any time for the marketing or whatever moves you're choosing to connect with those clients, then guess what? The end of the quarter is going to roll around and those 5 clients won't happen. Similarly, too, this weekly thing is a great opportunity to look at what you prioritize. Because I'm not looking to get 20 clients this year, but a big thing that happens over around Your Courageous Life is managing media. So we've got incoming media requests, people who would like to have me on their podcasts. We've got outgoing media requests because they're podcasts I find or love, and I'm like, wow, I'd really love to have a conversation with that person. Let's pitch them and see if it seems like a fit to be on their podcast. There's conferences, both incoming requests and pitching out to conferences. There's speaking gigs, pitching out, requests coming in. And then there's contributing to articles, things like that. I'm writing an article on this, this, and this. Can I talk to you about, what's happening with that article? Maybe I could get a soundbite from you, stuff like that. Very, very cool. A couple months ago, the BBC reached out to me for an article they were doing on moral courage, and they asked if they could interview me. And I was like, the BBC? Yeah, you can interview me. It's so cool. So, and by the way, as you hear me like gush about how cool it was for the BBC to interview me, like, let it just be known. There is no part of me that is ever like, well, of course, the BBC wanted to talk to me. I'm so fancy. Every single day when somebody asks me to be part of whatever it is they're doing, I'm just completely in awe of the fact that, like, what? This is my life? How'd that happen? I love it. So, I geek out on it. Anyway, so if you have a big goal for the year and you have quarterly goals that are going to feed that big goal, the place where most people trip up is in the weekly. It is in either not putting time on the calendar, period, to be able to do the things that you want to do, or you put time on the calendar for so many other things that it crowds out giving yourself enough space for the things you're wanting to get done. And I really have to give like a little shout out to a friend of mine, Laura Heacock. She's over at kindovermatter.com. She's an executive coach, and I mean, she's got all kinds of great systems, and love how her brain works when I'm trying to like work through like, how would you handle this kind of problem? She's a fan of saying what gets written down in the calendar gets done. And I don't think she claims, and I'm sure she isn't the original person who said that, but whenever she says it, I'm always like, oh yeah. What gets written on the calendar is what actually gets done. So the weekly piece is the piece where if you feel like getting things done is out of control, that's the piece to focus on. Now, let me talk about what my system is for all of this, okay? How am I remembering to do it, right? Because that's the other thing that comes up. People go, well, I have made plans like that before, but then I have trouble making a plan to do it. And I'm going to talk about mindset stuff in just a second, because I know the other piece that comes in here as well, but I'd love to do what you're talking about, Kate, but I don't have the time. I have too much to do. I just don't have the time. So I'll talk about that in a moment. But first, I'm just going to talk about strategically what I use. So I have a planner, and I know everybody loves planner recommendations. Here's mine, the Daily Greatness Planner. And the reason I love the Daily Greatness Planner is because it actually has pages within the planner for setting annual goals. I ignore the parts for setting 3, 5, and 10-year-old goals, confession. And it has a section for defining your quarterly goals. And then it has weekly planning. And each week, I can just put down what are my priorities, what's important, what am I delegating, and then here's my schedule and how will I fit each of these pieces in. These are the things that I want to do this week. How will I fit each piece in? And this method of planning out your week is not, I don't think, even original to the Daily Greatness Planner people, because I've read Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, and he basically walks people through a similar kind of a plan for their week, like what's important but not urgent, things like that. So if you want a planner that kind of takes the method and the process that I'm talking about, you can get it from the Daily Greatness Planner. And if you want to read more about the method and process that I'm talking about, I would definitely say grab Stephen Covey. I mean, it's such a classic book. Has a lot of really helpful insights. So those are the 2 resources I direct you to. And because I have a system on Sundays of just taking not even 20 minutes to sit down, look at my week, what do I have scheduled? What are my priorities? What do I want to get done? Let me map it all out. That is how I've stayed consistent with this. One more tool that has helped on a strategic level with staying consistent is an app called the Productive app. Love it. It's this app where you enter what your goals are and it'll ping you each day at a certain time and basically say, did you do it or didn't you? And it'll record stats. Love it, love it, love it. Super helpful app. So now let's talk about getting things done from the perspective of, I would love to get things done, but what hampers me is I don't have time. So I've talked with plenty of people and, confession, I've been the person who says, okay, yeah, I got it. I can do that. I can, make my goals and I can set my week and all that. But man, getting things done once the week is here and the fires are coming at me, that's what gets really tough. And that's where, for me, this all kind of comes together. This piece where I talked at the top of this podcast episode about not complaining, not talking about how busy you are or what it takes to get things done, discussing your to-do lists, all the things you have to do. Because, yeah, we get it. You've got a lot to do and it's tough and you wish you had less to do. And the fact is, you'll have all these same things to do, whether you're talking about it or not, and talking about what you need to do doesn't change what you need to do or make it get any easier. I am a huge fan of catharsis for shifting difficult emotions. If you ever go over to the Your Courageous Life website, do a search for a blog post on conscious crying. It's my fave. But there's a difference between consciously processing out emotion and low-grade venting that becomes wallowing. The difference is that one moves energy and the other just ruminates on it over and over. And this is where it's like, okay, you've got a lot to do. And it feels really, really real that you just don't have the time for getting things done. And this is the confronting with kindness moment, which is once you stop talking about how you need to get things done, it opens up this kind of vacuum for you to actually get curious about your process, for you to get curious about where you are tempted over and over and over to say how busy you are and how much you have to do. And once you start getting curious, you can start questioning it. And my favorite place to create these sort of moments of awareness and presence is through neural interruption. Neural interruption is when you change up your habitual language and it creates a neural interruption in the brain and the brain is kind of like, hold on, I didn't go through my habitual way of talking about this. I didn't get to run my neural pattern. So a couple ways to let go of this impulse to talk about how busy you are, and it's going to lead to you being less busy if you really follow this. First, here's one idea, mindfully, just stop talking about it. Like make a commitment right now. I'm not talking about how busy I am or all the things I need to do anymore. And this will require willpower at first, but you can get there. Another way to create the neural interruption that opens up the curiosity, that opens up the vacuum of space where you get to go, oh, maybe I'll question this, could be. Anytime you're tempted to talk about how busy you are, write it down on a piece of paper and then recycle the paper. We don't throw things away anymore, right? We recycle them, recycle the paper, but toss it in the recycling bin, but toss it. And as you're noticing, as you're writing things down, you're noticing, this is really interesting how I want to write these things down. What is it that I seem to keep writing over and over and over? Man, it's like here I am and I want to write, want to focus on how busy I am and how much I have to get done at 11 a.m. And I wanted to do it again at 1 and I wanted to do it again at 3. And each time on this piece of paper, I just keep writing down the same damn things. What's up with that? What's up with that? That's the curiosity. You could also notice when the voice in your head says that you have to get things done and gently ask it a question each and every time. Is that really true? Is it really true that I have to get this done? You'd be amazed. Working with clients all these years, you'd be amazed by how many people assume they have to get things done and don't ever stop to go, hold on a minute, do I? Do I actually have to get this done? Another thing you can do that provides that neural interruption, swap the words have to for choose to. So when you're at work and a colleague comes to you and says, are you going to have that report for me by 5? You could say, oh yeah, but first I have to get the da-da-da. It's like, nope, I will have that report for you at 5. First, I'm going to choose to work on. And that can be a really great shift. When you talk about groceries or laundry with your partner, I have to get the laundry done. Oh, I have to go grocery shopping. How about I choose to get the laundry done? I choose to go grocery shopping. Again, you're just trying to get conscious about this whole busyness thing that goes on in the back of all of our heads. You're trying to bring it forth. You're trying to provide the neural interruption. You're trying to open up a space of curiosity. And another one that I think can be really helpful is a gentle confrontation with the voice in your head. So let's say you're sitting at your desk, you're trying to get a lot of stuff done. The voice in your head is talking about, oh my God, now you got to do that. And then, oh shit, that tech issue. And why did that have to happen today? Did it have to happen today? All that stuff can start. Believe me, I know how it goes. And you interrupt the voice in your head gently and you go, okay, hey, I've got it. Things are busy. We're going to make it through. We don't need to keep thinking about it. We'll make it through. So these places where you are tempted to talk with yourself or with others about getting things done or how busy you are, you interrupt them. You try to do something that brings forth curiosity, that doesn't let the same old pattern run. And now I'm going to tell you about my favorite way of getting more things done. This is my very, very, very favorite. Notice the things you most want to complain about, the things that are a drag, and then get them off your to-do list first. Now, I have been the ultra-resistant person who is clinging to the cult of busy in my life. Let me tell you, I don't even want to think about how much money I have spent talking with coaches about the problem of being busy in my life and then being resistant to when they told me, well, you don't have to do that, or, well, you could do it this way, or no, I can't take that off my list. It has to get done. If I don't get that done, insert very good reason why things need to be done. Ranging from, of course, I need to make money, or I need to pay bills, or I need to follow through on that commitment to that person who's important to me. But this is the fact, okay? There's nothing that can quite change the I'm too busy, not getting enough things done feeling like actually getting them off of your list. And when you get the things you most resist off of your to-do list in a permanent way, you feel less stressed and less overwhelmed. And I got to tell you, it was not until I was challenged about this again and again, over and over, that it became clear. If I do not like having something in my life or on my to-do list, it is my responsibility to take that thing off of my to-do list. It is my responsibility to move it out of my life. Let that sink in. I'll say it again. I'll put a you in there. If you do not like having something in your life or on your to-do list, it is your responsibility to take that thing off of your to-do list or to move that thing out of your life. There are a lot of ways that you can actually take things off of your list, because when you take things off of your list that you really, really don't like doing, more room opens up for getting things done that are actually important to you. So here's how you can take some of those things off of your list. One option, you can slowly diminish your commitment. And I like that approach because Haven't we all been left in the lurch by someone who goes, I'm practicing self-care now, and I know I said I'd do that thing for you, but in the interest of self-care, sorry, I'm not going to do it. It's like, well, I appreciate that you're practicing self-care. Thank you so much for that. But the fact that you just bailed on this last minute means that now I don't get to practice self-care because I have a bigger workload, and it kind of pisses me off. So when I am going, all right, I need to get some of these commitments off of my to-do list, I take the approach of slowly diminishing my commitment so that I don't leave someone in the lurch. Setting up a plan. I'm going to be stepping away. Here's my plan. You can take things off of your to-do list by delegating. And this was a huge thing I did in my final months at my salaried job, by the way. I had built up my business to a pretty substantial place, and in the last year at my salary job, I was actually just there because I needed the health insurance. So I found someone on Upwork who would help me with certain tasks, and I would just assign those tasks to that person and pay them to do the tasks. And then I still had my health insurance and all that stuff. Freed me up to spend time building my business more. So you can take things off your plate by slowly diminishing your commitment until you no longer have that commitment you have to show up for. You could take it off by delegating. Delegating doesn't always have to cost money, by the way. Huge financial time saver if you have kids, for instance, and you need kid-free time to work is like, okay, I will take my friend over there, I will take your kids to my house for 4 hours so that you can work or run errands or whatever the case might be. We'll swap. You'll take my kids, and then I'll get some time. You can do that with knowledge, okay? So I would like to cut down the learning curve on how to learn the skill set of pitching to the media. Somebody else would like to learn something from me. We'll swap skill sets, and then I don't have the task of trying to learn it all on my own. Someone's helping me, and they don't have the task of trying to learn something all on their own. I'm helping them. I'm cutting down their learning curve. You could also take things off of your list by finding alternative resources. So if I needed to do a thing because it was tied to making money, I would ask myself, what's another way that I can make money? Like, is there an alternative way that I can make money that doesn't involve this thing that I don't like to do or don't want to have to do? Or what was something I was willing to go without in my life so that I didn't need to make as much money and thus wouldn't need to deal with XYZ hassle meal that I want off of my to-do list? So there are a lot of different ways to get things off of your to-do list. They don't all have to cost money. And the more you can simplify, the easier that things can get, as we all know. But it's really hard when you are committed to this idea that you have to do things, which is why I'm trying to help you work backward here. And I'm trying to go, hey, let's have you confront the have-tos. Let's have you practice the neural interruptions that get you to notice those times where you assume that you have to, air quotes, do something when in fact you're choosing to. And if you don't like the choices that you're making, you get to make different choices. There are a lot of ways to find an out, to not have to do things you don't want to do. And I'm also not trying to sprinkle glitter on this. I realize everybody's life has a certain amount of things they don't want to do. My point is, the more of those things you can shove off of your to-do list, the less overwhelming all the rest of the stuff is. The more of those things you really don't like that you can get off of your to-do list, the more time you free up for what's most important to you. So, I wanted to say one more thing before we hopped off of here around getting things done, and it is around those times when you got to scale back, because they do happen. Sometimes I have taken things off of my list that were related to annual or quarterly goals, related to my ambition, because it was clear to me that the attainment of that goal would come at too high of a price for my personal sanity. Sometimes something has been more complicated than I realized when I first went after it. Sometimes the issue is I overshot a bit. I didn't realize that I was overshooting and I need to scale back a bit. And if you found yourself in that kind of a position, what I would suggest is make sure that you're still making progress and not just copping out on a goal, and set a lower bar goal. So to use the earlier example, if finding 5 coaching clients during a quarter is completely stressing you out and just doesn't seem like it's happening despite your best efforts, and then that stresses you out, reduce your goal to 2 to 3 clients. Make your new goal, I'm going to work on my mindset around goal attainment, around overwhelm, because clearly trying to go after 5 clients has felt really difficult, and my mindset and my stress and all that is like, so that's something I need to work on. So I'm going to replace the goal of 5 clients with 2, and I'm going to add in, I need to put some attention on this place that appears to be a weaker spot where I get really overwhelmed when I try to go after this goal. That's what I'm going to work on now. So it is okay to scale back when you realize that you've overshot a goal. It doesn't mean you've failed. Getting things done becomes a lot less stressful when we're willing to flow with what is rather than rigidly attach to outcomes. So, you want to get more things done and you want to do less of the stuff you don't like. It's a combination of accepting that what got onto your to-do list got there because you put it there. Your options are to lessen the stress by doing the thing and not complaining about it, or to find proactive solutions to take it off of your to-do list. And at the end of the day, you're still going to have some stuff in your life probably that isn't your favorite to do, but the less of it you can have, the better life you can live. And that is perhaps one of the most important goals of all. All right, that's today's podcast. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. You know you can continue the work and the fun if you want to. Head on over to yourcourageouslife.com/begin and become a Your Courageous Life subscriber, because as soon as you sign up, you get access to an entire library of worksheets and audios and other bonuses. And of course, you'll be receiving more courage in your inbox. And who wouldn't love that? You can learn more about the Courageous Living Coach certification at teamclcc.com. You can get the Courage Habit at your local bookseller, on Amazon, wherever you like. We can even connect on social media. I'm on Facebook at Your Courageous Life. So look for facebook.com/Your Courageous Life. And I'm on Instagram as Kate Courageous. And I'd love to connect with you on Instagram. So here's to you, using these courageous tools in your life and creating a real ripple effect of good. And again, thanks so much for listening. I love it that you're here.